Welcome back to another episode of Your Platform Podcast. I've been gone for a couple of weeks. I haven't done
Long time.
2 weeks. By the time this episode comes out, it'll be 3 weeks. So I've been very busy, obviously we know, but my guest today, Samantha Gonzalez, who came into the insurance industry, guns a-blazing, and we're here to hear her journey, through college. This is in the insurance industry where we work today. It's her first real job. She jokes around all the time. It's her first real career job after, right?
Yep.
So, Sam, I appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
This is going to be just one-to-one kind of conversation. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
But first of all, I want to acknowledge how great of an employee I think you are for the company.
Thank you.
I'm being serious, and not just that, but you're also like so willing to learn, and you're very determined to do things, and that's admirable.
Thank you.
Coming into the industry, when I look back at my 25-year-old self in the industry, I was like, man, I'm not sure if this is for me, and I'm sure everybody has that level of discussion with themselves, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But you have this like kind of drive of like, even though that, if that comes across your mind, you're still going to move forward.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Thank you.
So let's talk about a couple of things. So you went to Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee, graduated with a double major in economics.
Yeah. Economics and music business, actually.
And music business.
Yeah.
What did you want to do before you got into this role?
Growing up, it was like when I was young, I wanted to be a firefighter like my dad. That changed. And then I wanted to do something in the medical field like my mom. That changed. And then probably when I was like 16, I realized I really like music and entertainment, and found that there was a realm like for a career for that. And then I was like, oh, let me be an attorney, like an entertainment law. So I went to college and I was like, economics is really good for law school, and then music business. I can get both degrees in 4 years. I'm going to do that and then get into law school. And that was what I was initially going to do. I got into decent law schools. I did well on my LSATs, and then really only pivoted because of COVID. That was it. That was really the only difference.
So you pivoted because of COVID.
Yeah.
What was that pivot like for you when you're going through COVID? Obviously, you were a senior, right? When COVID hit,
junior in college.
You were a junior when COVID hit. Talk to me about, because we'll touch on some of the topics about Gen Z and anxiety and all that stuff later in this conversation, which I really am interested in because I have my own biases.
Of course.
But talk to me about what's going on in your mind and maybe your friends' minds at that time. Junior in college, you're probably having a great time, some of the best times of your lives, and then everything gets shut down. Yeah. What's happening in your mind?
So I had just moved to New York City for an internship. So I was like full steam ahead, going to go to law school for entertainment law. So I was doing crazy entertainment industry internships at the time. And in January of 2020, I moved to New York City. I got an apartment with some friends in Brooklyn Heights. It was a great place. I loved it. And initially I was like, oh, this isn't going to be a problem. Like, I was 21. I didn't quite frankly care. I was ignorant probably. And then when things started getting shut down and I was getting sent home, it was like, oh, damn, like everything is changing. Yeah. And then it was like, I didn't even go back to school. I did the rest of my college online.
Wow. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So it was all remote from my home in Connecticut. So I didn't even really get 4 years of college. I didn't get to go back to Nashville. I went back for my graduation and that was it. And I remember like this summer after I graduated, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to do everything that I thought I wanted to do. But the world that I wanted to work in was completely different. Like, we're just now seeing the entertainment industry being brought back to normal. And especially for law school, it was still going to be online. So I was like panicking. I was like, why am I going to take out so much debt to go move to New York City again to go to law school if I'm remote and not being able to do in-person internships, and everything was just different. So, I mean, I was panicking. It forced me to pivot and I ended up here. So it worked out. I mean, honestly, like, I say this with cautiously because I know COVID was a bad time for a lot of people, but it was the best thing that could have happened to me.
It's amazing how many people have said that on my show, how very much, we acknowledge how detrimental it was to people, to our
So many,
country.
we're still facing
We're still dealing with things, even organizations like ours, right?
Yeah.
But so many people have said, man, I had to reinvent myself.
Yeah, 100%.
And, I think sometimes stuff like that need to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, definitely.
To bring us to where we are. I do have a question about your work ethic, because, work ethic, the work ethic that I see, that I've been, for now the last 2.5 years of knowing you, it's strong. You have a strong work ethic.
Thank you.
Where's that come from?
I don't know. I think growing up, I had, a very privileged life. I lived a very good life. There was very few things that I wanted or to have or wanted to do that I wasn't able to get from my parents. And from a pretty early age, my parents worked crazy jobs. My dad always had multiple jobs at the same time. They were always working. And I think I just saw like, okay, I was raised in a life that I really liked and I wanted to continue it. And I knew that it wasn't going to be handed to me. Like, it wasn't like my parents had tons of money to hand down to me. Like, I knew if I wanted to live a nice life, I was going to have to work hard. But that being said, like, I always err on the side of caution when reflecting on work ethic and casting judgment on it. I think work ethic is a really volatile metric to measure someone on, just because, I think there's just a lot of influences that come into it, and it ebbs and flows for all of us. Like, there's times in your life and in my life where I'm going to be the hardest working person in the room, and then the next day I might not be, for whatever reason, whatever factor that may be. I think a better judgment is somebody's priorities, because those don't change as much. Those are pretty set in stone regardless of your season of life. So I just really prioritize my job. I prioritize working hard. I prioritize being successful. Whereas some people prioritize different things, and that's okay. There's not a right way or a wrong way to do it. But I think my priorities just almost make me work the way I do.
So those are like principles you're saying.
Yeah,
like
100%.
You have these standards, these set in stone, like I'm going to follow these principles.
Yeah.
But work ethic is in those principles.
Yeah. I mean, to a degree, yeah. I'm not, but I will say, like, there's areas of my life where I'm 100% lazy.
Yeah, of course. I think we all are.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I start my day at 12. Sometimes I started at 3.
I'm not getting up early.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I would like to get up early to work out. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. But to challenge and kick back a little bit about what you're saying about, I think it's more of a principle thing. I think that discipline it kind of plays into that, right? So you're still doing what you have to do,
right?
Whether it's at 3, whether it's at 12,
right?
You get it done. If you have to clean your room, I know we were talking about joking around the other day. It's like, sometimes it takes 4 days, but it gets done.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of a different correlation in terms of work. And I just think about, and we're going to jump into the insurance transition in a little bit, but I just think about what you just did and accomplished for the company contest. You were locked in. You put your head down. And again, like you mentioned, oh, well, there was times that I wasn't because I was, I could have done things differently. But you got it done. So there's a level of work ethic that I think that's up here out of all of the things that you mentioned. It's just kind of underlying, and you kind of just tap into it. So anyway, I wonder, for you coming into this industry, what was the hardest thing for you coming into the insurance industry? Obviously, we deal with people's personal stuff, auto, home, life insurance. What was that hardest thing early on? And you're still pretty new in the sense of tenure, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think honestly, just when I came in, I will say our manager knows about this now, but when I started here, my plan was to stay for a year and then go back to law school. So I came into this job with no intention of staying. And pretty early on, I was like, oh, I had no idea. I did not know what I was signing up for. So I think just the overwhelming amount of knowledge I had to obtain in a very short period of time was crazy. It felt like I was going to school. I mean, in a sense I was studying for those exams and, doing all that, which they gave me 10 days to do, which was kind of crazy in hindsight, but,
that is crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. But I mean, looking back, I can remember being like I was in my parents' house in like the sunroom, and I was by myself. I was like locked in there and just like trying to absorb as much information as I possibly could, because there's just so much of it. And that learning curve was a huge thing. But to your point, like in order to have thrived here, I had to be coachable and I had to want to learn. But thankfully I did. I wanted to learn and pretty quickly realized I liked it here. So it was an easy hurdle to get over, I guess.
What are some things that you remember in those first few like months of, let's just say when you started selling, right? Obviously we could talk about the licensing and training and whatnot. I remember, and I'll just share my story. When I first started in the industry, I would get really anxious about taking people's money. Like, yo, you just gave me your information to insure your home, and that's what we do, right? That's who we are. It's we are for agents. But I remember getting really anxious about that, and that didn't go away for a while.
Definitely.
What are some of the things you remember in your first couple months writing business?
Yeah. So this is maybe like a Gen Z term, but it was like imposter syndrome, especially because everything was completely remote. So we were not doing in-person visits. No one was coming in here to meet with you. And so for me, I was like, oh my God, do these people know I'm like 22 years old doing this? Like there's no way they do. And people were coming. I remember like one guy called in and he had a yacht, and I was like,
what's that?
I don't even know what to ask about those. And I was like, but I was honest about it. Thankfully, I was like, I'm going to have to get back to you because I don't know. But the anxiety, just feeling like, oh my God, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, I'm so young, I'm so green, I'm so naive. Like, it was overwhelming. And you know this, I would not make calls in front of anybody. I'm getting better.
I don't understand though. I don't understand. Help me understand. Why do you, what is it that you don't like? And again, you have been getting better. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I heard you multiple times. You sound great on the phones. Yeah. What is it that you think, even now, having done this for so long, being as good as you are, what is it that you feel like you are having issues with?
Honestly, it was like, it's all in my head, because when I started, I was so young. We didn't have interns. I was the only person in my 20s, and everyone most people on the team were like, been there for 10 years and they were older. I say cautiously, but I was like, these people are so good. We have 3 executive agents on our team, and I'm working for one of them. And so I'm like, I am scared to mess up. I'm scared to do something wrong. I'm scared to embarrass myself. Like, because everyone has been here for so long and is so like beyond proficient at what they do that I'm so new. Like, I don't know. It was scary, and it still is sometimes. And also too, like when I'm talking to a client and I'm focused, like I need to focus. So then like if someone comes over and is like, oh, you should say that, I'm like,
that's annoying.
It's annoying.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's not just you. So it's like I just wanted to hide away.
Yeah, I wasn't calling you annoying.
No.
The person who does
doing
that.
it. Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Anyway,
I know.
So I sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but what have you learned since then? What are some of the biggest learning moments that you've had since joining writing business? What's the biggest thing for you so far that you've learned? And I'll have a follow-up question for that.
As far as like the job, or
the job, about yourself.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, like I think the biggest thing is like I'm definitely way more confident in myself all around. I think about who I was when I walked in here, and I'm naturally, when you get to know me, like I'm pretty outgoing. Growing up, like my teachers were like, she doesn't stop talking. I'm always going. I'm a very social person, but like I didn't want to go out and meet new people. I was pretty reserved in the professional realm. Like I had no confidence whatsoever. And it's still something I struggle with. Obviously, I think all of us do to a degree. I'm still trying to push myself to be on my comfort zone. But I think that's probably the biggest thing for me, is just kind of getting over that and learning, like, or maybe realizing that this is probably what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I think too, like I don't want to say it's easy and make it sound like this job is easy, because this job is not easy, but it comes easy to me. And it's like, I know I've learned, like, I know I'm supposed to do it. Right. I know I'm supposed to be here. I know I'm supposed to be working in insurance. No doubt in my mind. That's probably the biggest thing for me.
What do you want to get better at?
Confidence.
Yeah.
100%. Like somebody was like, oh, if our regional manager came in here and was like, make a call next to me, what would you do? I would probably freak out, just be so nervous. Even though like I know what I'm doing.
Right.
I know I'm, great for my customers. I have great relationships with my clients and my referral partners, and I know the job. I know what I'm doing. It's just I'm still so green compared to everybody else. And I know there's a lot for me to learn. So definitely confidence.
It's interesting though, because I wonder if that's what we just tell ourselves, that we need to be confident when we really are confident. Because I think about everybody in our team and everybody that I've encountered with anything that they want to do in life.
Yeah.
And confidence is something that comes with repetition, which we all have done several times.
Yeah.
And I think we tell ourselves this narrative that we're not as good as we actually are.
Yeah.
I think that subconsciously that kind of seeps in.
Yeah.
And hinders us a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading a book right now. I shared it on my last episode, and read it if you want to. It's not a spiritual book, but it's called Outwitting the Devil, and it's by Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
And the devil, he's basically interviewing the devil throughout the entire book, and the devil just talks about his ways of how he penetrates human mind.
Yeah.
And it starts when we are younger.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something earlier, that imposter syndrome. So I wonder how much of that narrative of imposter syndrome that we've had, which I, again, to this day, 35, going to these events. I got an event next week. I'm jumping on a phone call later on today. You still have that sense of, but then I've been able to tell myself, like, I've done this.
Yeah.
I've been doing it. And I just wonder what it actually, like, is it just something we need to continue to build off of?
I mean, like, I probably, I think the other, I look at like my day-to-day interactions in this office, and like our boss gets so upset with me when she will call on me in our sales meetings, and I'm like sheepish, but it's because honestly, like, and I tell her this, I'm like I'm in my head, I'm like, what value can I add as someone who's been here for 2 years?
I think there's a lot of value though.
I get that, but it's also like on the other side of, I'm like, there's people that have been here for 10 years.
Sure.
There's people in this company that have been here longer than I've been alive. Like,
I think with respect to them though, first of all, you've done it. You've done the job really well. And I would say, I would just put myself in this category. There's things that you do a lot better than me. And I've been doing this now for, almost 10 years. Right. There was one thing I really remember. We were sitting here last year, right before the life contest. And we're doing, the planning.
Yeah.
A few months goes by, and we're not where we need to be as a team to get there. And this was one of the moments I'm like, she's going to be here for a very long time. You were like, I'm just going to be straight up. You guys haven't done it because you're not putting in the efforts to do it. I don't know if you remember saying that. It was along the lines of that.
I do. Yeah.
And it was in that moment, I'm like, she's going to be here for a long time. Yeah. So I do think you bring value. And I do think that, so again, I'll speak for myself. I'm like, yep, she's right. I'm not putting in the effort.
Yeah.
And fast forward to a year later, you did every single thing you could to win that contest.
Yeah.
That tells me, as someone who, I don't ever look at somebody, whether they are older or younger than me, or if I know more than them. I always look at somebody that I can learn from that individual. And I think that the people on our team, the people that encounter, feel the same way.
Yeah. I mean, thank you. I definitely, I'm getting better at it. I'm trying to be better at it, especially now that we have interns and people that come to me and ask me questions often. Like I recognize that I have, value to add to people on this team. And I hope I do. That's, a goal of mine, obviously. So it's just something that I'm working through. Definitely better than I was even a year ago, especially now. Like, I think I'm way more comfortable.
Very, you can't, it's night and day.
Yeah. 100%.
It's night and day.
100%.
Completely.
Yeah.
What do you like most about the job?
It's rewarding. I think, when I was growing up, I was like, I want to do something. I'm not going to lie. Like, I want to make money. I like recognition. And I want to do something that's rewarding and fulfilling to me. And when I think about like the attorney path, like, you're going to make money and you're going to challenge yourself, and maybe you'll win an award here and there if you're great or whatever. But how rewarding is it?
Yeah.
I don't know, especially like looking back, I remember something I said in my interview when they were asking me why I wanted to leave the entertainment industry, because my internship sounded fun, which they were a lot of fun, but it's fleeting.
Right.
Like these people don't, you know, they don't care.
Yeah.
And it's like the think about like every day when I'm on the phone with somebody, you are too, we're helping people. Like you're making a difference in these people's lives, whether that's their financial life or you're protecting their assets or giving them peace of mind. Like that's so nice. And then when I think about when I was younger and I was like, oh, I want to be a firefighter. Oh, I want to be a nurse or whatever. It's like, I wanted to help. I wanted to make a difference. And it's like every day I'm like, this is, yes, it fulfills me in maybe my selfish ways, but also it's rewarding. Like I know I'm making a good impact on people's lives.
Right. I love that. I want to transition. I think the insurance piece is, it's great. I'm very appreciative to know you and have you on this team. And again, like I said, there's things that you say, there's things that you do that I'm like, all right, I gotta make sure I spruce it up. But I want to transition a little bit away from that piece. We talked a little bit about through college, what you wanted to do, what you thought you were going to do. We talked about the insurance piece here, what you enjoy about it, what you don't, what you've learned. But I want to talk about my conceptions of Gen Z.
Perfect.
I use me.
Okay.
Gen Z is weird a little bit. not you people. I think for the first time I've ever heard of Gen Z was like last year.
Yeah.
And
okay, fair.
When I say weird, obviously we have baby boomers, we have the Gen X after that, millennials. I'm a millennial. Then you guys, who after you? What's the next?
I don't know. Is it? I don't even know. Gen Y?
I don't know. But the gap seems. What I mean by weird is from 1997 to 2002 is the years of
Gen Z.
I think.
Yeah.
I think that's a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Why is it called Gen Z? If you know the answer to that.
I don't, honestly. Okay. I don't.
You don't know the answer to that, but
I don't.
I think ultimately during my little research of Gen Z is you guys are born during the tech boom.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are kind of the most diverse compared to the previous generations.
Mm-hmm.
My initial conception of Gen Z, or I guess right now, you're kind of an outlier from some of the other ones.
Yeah, definitely.
But I have this conception that they don't work hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
Am I wrong in that estimation?
I don't know. I mean, I actually think this kind of circles back to what I was saying earlier about work ethic versus people's priorities in life. Like I think about when I look at my friends and how we approach our jobs and our lives, and I have a completely different priority for my work than my friends do. And that's not saying my job's harder than theirs or their job's harder than mine. It has nothing to do with that. I think it's the environments that you're put in. Like, for example, my friends, none of them work in sales. None of them work for a Fortune 100 company, and none of them are building their own business. So in order for me to be successful in that realm, I have to prioritize my job over a lot of areas in my life, especially right now. Whereas a lot of my friends who are obviously Gen Z do not have to do that. And they're prioritizing in this stage of life peace and comfort and relaxation. And I don't necessarily, I mean, are there people that are lazy? Yes. Is that true of other generations too? Definitely.
For sure.
I think Gen Z is maybe just more vocal about wanting more of a balance, more of I don't want to say things easy, but they don't.
That's kind of what I think about it.
Yeah.
It comes off as, not they want it easy, not,
Yeah.
Again, perception, my perception.
I get it.
My own bias.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think the amount of people that I know who are that generation are all here in this office.
Yeah.
But and surprisingly enough, the people who are that generation that are here don't have that. They trump my bias on that, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I think again though, like you can't make it here if you don't prioritize working.
And that's
what I mean. Not possible.
That's what I mean. From the people, I think there's probably 5 of you, maybe 6 of you that are Gen Z.
Yeah, a lot of them are interns.
a lot of them are interns.
Yeah.
But I feel like they had they grew up with people who they were influenced by people who worked hard.
Yeah.
And so seeing that, that enlightens me a little bit.
Yeah.
But then there's that other, there's the other piece, the TikTok crowds and the stuff like
Yeah.
that. There's a little bit of
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. Like I just see different facets of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think honestly, like a huge part of it, I think, is like we grew up in the realm of social media. I think I got my first social media page when I was in 5th grade or 4th grade. It was Facebook.
Never.
Yeah, I know. And now parents are like, well, we shouldn't be doing that.
Although I will say, I think the earliest memory of me being online. So back in the day, I don't know how much you know about this, but there was like chat rooms where you could go.
I mean, I know I've heard of chat rooms, but I wasn't
crazy.
A part
like
of them.
I was like, you'd be like in this like room, kind of like almost like a Discord kind of thing. You know what Discord is? Anyway, no, you don't know what Discord is. All right, so how about like when you're on YouTube and then there's a live chat?
Yeah. So I'm following.
It was
yeah.
It was like that, and like you would just like spark conversations with people,
like strangers.
Like this is very dangerous time.
Yeah, I'm like you could be abducted. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like and it just like so there are levels of that, for us millennials growing up during that time, using a little bit of technology. I'm a good typer today because of that.
Yep.
That time.
Right. Sure.
But
there's not the media. Like, I don't mean media by the news. I mean, you weren't seeing people's photos and videos in those spaces.
No.
So now, you go on Instagram. I am 100% guilty of this. I will tell you, but like, I have a specific look on my Instagram. 100%. It's like, oh, she's traveling all the time.
Yeah.
Which, like, I mean, I do travel, but it's not all the time. I work, but it doesn't look like it.
Why do you have that look on for social media as opposed? Like, is it just
no?
Yeah, but no, it's curious. Like, is that like a branding thing, or is it like
maybe? I mean, but again, like if I'm somebody that doesn't know me and they follow me and they see my Instagram, it does not look like I work.
Yeah,
not at all. I mean, I definitely post about my job to a degree and like my coworkers and stuff like that, but like, especially when I was abroad, like people were probably like, what is she doing? This girl doesn't have a job. She's just jetting around. Like, what is she doing? So, I mean, I think for a lot of Gen Z, it's like, oh, I'm seeing this. Like, I want to do that.
Right.
But then reality, it's like, oh, these people all have 9-to-5 jobs.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's what I mean. That's why I have the conception. I feel like I have the conception about Gen Z a little bit because I often see people talk on social media.
Yeah.
Where they're almost like a victim mentality of things not working out for them the way it should.
I mean, yeah, I guess I
and again, I'm not speaking for you.
No. I know what you're saying.
My perception is.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you think about it, like if Gen Z is 97 to 2002, that's really like
it's not even 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, think about like from those 97 to now, like everything that's gone on.
Right.
It's like, yeah, other generations have had to go through it too, but they're established in their life. Like, think about if you, like, I always say, like, in regards to my friends, like, okay, so we graduated college during COVID and some of us went back to school, some of us didn't, but then it's like, we all were working remote.
Right.
And so it's like, can you blame them for not wanting to go back into an office or for not wanting to work extra hours? No, right. Like they were given like a nice work from home balanced life and everything was easy. It's like,
but again, there it is. Easy.
Yeah.
I'm a really big believer that things should not be easy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do agree with you. I think more so it was convenience. And I think like when I talk to my friends, like every single one of them, myself included, it's like, we just want to be like, we want things to be peaceful. Like it doesn't have to be like, my friends like all hate their bosses or like maybe not hate, but like they have no like real fondness towards them for a number of reasons. They're always trying to like they have to fight for PTO and like they're like, listen, we'll work hard, but like meet us halfway, like give us some like luxuries in life, if you will. Like, and I don't blame them for that. Like if I'm busting my butt 40 hours a week, like I want something in return, but more than a $20 an hour pay.
Jump into sales then.
I mean,
right?
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, I kind of want to gatekeep it a little bit. I'm like, don't come into insurance sales.
But you can any sort of sales.
Yeah. I know.
Become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think that, I gather that there's a lot of social unrest in that generation.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because I like to call it FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Okay.
There's fear of what's happening economically,
Yeah.
whatever,
100%.
whatever side of the aisle you're on that. There's uncertainty of like what's going to happen. And then there's doubt in yourself.
Yeah.
And you couple that with what you see on social media. And,
Yeah.
and again, to your point, I don't think that this is just a Gen Z issue.
Yeah.
I do think that this is more of a issue for people in general, because I also grew up the same kind of technology. The thing is, I think you guys learned it a lot faster than us. You guys adapted much quicker to it. Because, I think, Instagram came out in 2012. You were probably what?
Middle school. 7th grade, maybe.
Did you have an Instagram?
Yeah,
then?
I got it. I got it in
Okay,
7th grade.
okay.
Yeah.
For me, I started using it, and like I just used it for like random things. Like, oh, I'm at Stop and Shop. I'm gonna take a picture of a box of cereal, and I posted it. And that has evolved to where it is today.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's a level of, oh, we see this, they look happy. Oh, we see, like you said, I'm studying abroad. Does she work? She must work and make a ton of money. And then people are like, why isn't this me?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't disagree. I just think, like, in my head, like, this isn't just Gen Z. I just think Gen Z is more vocal about it.
Yeah.
Because if you think about like millennials who've been working for 10, 15, 20 years, they're like, well, I'm not going to, bark up to my boss about X, Y, and Z. Like, I've been here for a while. Like, things are okay. Things are good. But like, for someone that's new, like I think a lot of them, it's like, oh, well, I mean, I've only been here for 2 years. Like, who cares if I piss them out?
But how much is it? There's a level of it that is merit. And then there's a level of it that I feel like the ones who are barking up could potentially be saying it because they feel like they deserve it, or, there's equity, if you will, right? It's equal for.
I mean, I'll say, like, I definitely, like, I wouldn't want to be a hiring manager right now, like, especially with people job hopping and stuff like that. But I think, like, when I really look at it, like, they're trying to, in my opinion, I think that their goals are in good faith. Like, they want to make things with more of a balance. They, want to make things easier, right, wrong, or indifferent. I don't think that they're doing that with poor intentions.
Of course.
And I think just across the board, they're like, listen, like, think about, the stress of some people's parents, and also, like, so many of our parents have been divorced, and it's like, well, what causes that? Is it work? Is it stress? Is it, being busy, whatever?
Do you think, though, if $100,000 was put on the table for you, right? And you said, you can have this $100,000, here you go, or you have to do 5 different things that are hard work to get that $100,000.
I mean, I'm taking the $100,000.
You're gonna take it.
I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
If it's presented to me like that, yeah. If it was presented to me in a different way, like, okay, you can have the $100,000 today, or you can do X, Y, and Z, and then double it.
So what this is gonna say.
Yeah.
So, like, let's just say that $100,000 that they give you can't buy a house, for example.
Okay.
But the $100,000 that you worked hard for could.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Like long-term investments. Yeah.
But I do think that people will take that $100,000
regardless.
Yeah. I do think, that I have a perception, again, for people. I won't just throw Gen Z. I do have a perception. It's just hard. It's easy to throw Gen Z because I'm sitting with you here talking about it. Yeah. But I do think for people, they'll take the easy way out.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's good for long-term sustainability, long-term growth. Yeah. Because now, like, for example, you just won that contest. Yeah, now you got to put all that back in next year to do the same thing.
Well, I think I will say too, like, it's, for me at least, like, there's been areas in my life, even as a kid, like in sports and things like that, like, where I'm like, oh, that was rewarding. Right. So I think for a lot of people, a lot of kids who don't necessarily grow up in a competitive environment, whatever that may be, that makes them less inclined to be competitive in their adult life. But like that contest, like, I cautiously say this as well, because like I worked for an executive, but I've never worked harder in my life than I did for that contest. And so when I won, especially like in the way that I won, it was like, oh, like that was the most rewarding thing,
Yeah.
honestly.
I want to read some of the stuff that I came up with, and I just want to just kind of fire off and just give me some of your thoughts. So
Okay.
this is I titled it the good, the bad, the ugly of Gen Z.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah.
So we'll start with the good. So tech savvy, right?
Yeah.
So you guys are the first fully digital generation.
Yep.
94% of you own a smartphone by 15, and you just said that you were.
Yeah, I got my first phone when I was like in 5th grade, I think.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
That's
Yeah.
wild. I had a T9 phone when I was
I
like.
had like an Android, which is whack, but that was my first phone. Yeah.
So smartphone by the age of 15, so good, and over 80% use social media daily.
Yep, definitely, definitely.
To that point, 62% of Gen Zers have either started their own business or plan to do so, which I think that's really good. I do think that
I do think there's like an entrepreneur like spirit among this generation, especially because like a lot of people want to be their own boss.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to be controlled.
Right.
So it's like if you want that, then you have to figure out.
What are your thoughts on education post high school now compared to where it was? I mean, you just graduated 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I think I graduated. I'm going to mention 2011, 13 years ago. I graduated, and I have a perception that college is completely different.
Yeah.
The standards of of people, and even for me, someone who has a criminal justice degree, look where I'm working.
Yeah, exactly.
The amount of people that have insurmountable amounts of debt that are not using their degree unless you went to school to be a teacher, an engineer, or a doctor, or even a lawyer.
Yeah, there's very specific careers.
But you have all these other general studies, if you will, and then these kids leave and
80 grand in debt. And
80 grand in debt. What do you think about
that? I think like so one of the areas I've grown in is I was really sheltered, and I would even maybe say like a brat. And so in my head, I'm like, oh, you don't go to college? Like, what are you doing? Reality situation is like, no, you don't have to. No. And especially too, like if you,
and you're not saying that you're not saying that in the sense of you don't believe in education. You're saying you don't have to do the post.
You do not have to do that. And especially like, I think about like my dad who went to a tech high school. He didn't even go to a real high school, and then he became a career firefighter when he was in his early 20s. Like he had a great career, and he loved it. And it was so rewarding for him, and he made decent money. I mean, there's, downsides to it, of course, but like he loved it, and he didn't have to go to college for that. I mean, he ended up going, but, for someone like me, like I was thankful my parents helped me out a lot, but like I went to an expensive school for what? Like, I don't even know why. And it's like my best friend in the world. We were just talking about this the other night. She's like, if I could do it over, I would have never taken out that kind of debt. I would have gone to a community college for 2 years before I figured out what I wanted to do.
Insane.
And like, there's a stigma around that too. And I hope that it goes away because there's a lot of kids. The other thing too, like there's a lot of kids that cannot go to college for whatever reason. It's usually out of their control. They can't go. And so like, but like, think that none of us here need a college degree.
No.
And all of us here make very good money.
Yes, we do.
You just need to prioritize your job and, have a work ethic.
Yeah.
But I don't think, again, I do think college is good. I grew up a lot. It was good for me. I went far away from home.
Yeah.
I loved my time there. I learned a lot. I matured a lot. And I do think it's important, but it's not the end of the world.
And I do agree with that. And like, so I went to college. I went to a local school. It was private. I should have went somewhere else.
State schools all the way.
Private inside my own town that I lived in.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't educated on how to go to college.
Yeah, a lot of kids aren't. Yeah.
But I went and I was able to play baseball. The experience was great, right? That was there. I feel like the one thing that college did for me is it gave me more social awareness of who I am.
Yeah.
And it also allowed me to kind of, have jobs that I have. I'm not going to lie. Like having a college degree
helps you out.
At that time. I had a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and because I had a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, I got a job where I'm at now. Wouldn't have had that happen.
Yeah.
But fast forward to now, I'm not sure if the same thing applies anymore.
Yeah.
Because of where we are, work from home, and there's multiple different ways where you can make money.
Right.
Couple things, because we got like 10 minutes left that I want to just run by. So we went through the good, so tech savvy, entrepreneurial spirit, social justice awareness. We'll save that for another podcast because that's something that we can go back and forth.
We can go back and forth on that.
And then multitasking proficiency, the bad, and this is something that I do think is really important. high levels of anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
42% of Gen Zers report experiencing mental health challenges like anxiety and depression,
Yeah.
a higher rate than any other generation.
100%.
What do you think that's caused by? So again, the being had that Gen Z 97 to 2002.
Yeah. I mean, I think about like growing up, obviously all of us have different personal issues going on, but from like a collective perspective, like, so, we were born, 9/11 happened.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a war, and there was a financial crisis, and people's parents were stressed, and then people's parents were getting divorced. And it's like, you living in a house, like you can, as a parent, like shelter your kids only so much.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the parents are stressed and then the kids get stressed, and it's like the kids don't even realize they're stressed, but they are.
Right.
And then they don't have coping mechanisms because their parents don't have coping mechanisms. It's cyclical. And then they go to college and then they're stressed, and now they have mad student loan debt, a ton of student loan debt. It's constant. And I will also say too, I think this is a good thing about Gen Z is that like both of my parents, whether they want to admit it or not, and they're going to watch this, they both struggle with stuff.
Yeah, of course.
My dad has probably untreated PTSD. My mom has problems. Everyone has problems.
Yeah, of course.
Whether or not they treat it, that's up to them. It's an individual decision. But like Gen Z is going to talk about it, and they're going to seek help. And I think that's really important. I should probably do a better job of it myself, to be honest. But I just think it's more relative. It's from the day they're born until today. It's constant in some capacity.
Last one here, and we'll wrap up. The pressure to succeed. 79% of Gen Z feel a strong pressure to succeed academically and professionally, often leading to burnout and stress. I think we see that here.
Yeah.
I think that we see that as, again, I don't even know if that's just a Gen Z thing. I think there's always pressure to succeed.
Yeah.
I feel like that number is high because people don't know how to define success for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, like I will say, I feel like I have to not overperform, but in a sense, like when I'll meet people, they'll like referral partners, they'll be like, "Oh, you're young. Like, I'm surprised you work the way you do." And it's like, oh shoot, like I have to work even harder now because they already think I'm not going to work hard.
Yeah.
But I think as far as like success goes, you got to be able to define that for yourself.
Yeah.
And you can't be chasing somebody else's perspective on that.
Yeah.
You have to figure that out for yourself. Yeah. And if you don't, you're always going to be like keeping up with the Joneses, if you will.
So we talked a lot about Gen Z. I think this is good stuff for like future content.
Yeah.
But as we kind of wrap up and close up the episode right now, is what's it's a couple pieces of advice for people. And we just use the Gen Z crew.
Yeah.
Those who are looking for work, those who are in their jobs and settling. What do you have? What do you have for them? Someone that just, if you had someone that's your age and maybe their lifestyle's not as the same as yours, but they're trying to strive forward, what would you say to them?
The best piece of advice I've ever been given was actually by a basketball coach I had. I was in like 6th grade, and he pulled me aside. His name is Coach Tiny. I'll never forget this. He probably doesn't remember this. And he was like, "You have so many gifts. Like, you're so good at this sport. You're passionate. You're driven. You're really good, but you're not going to be great because you're not coachable." I was like 11 when he told me that.
Wow.
And it was after a practice, and I was like, I remember the way it made me feel. I was like, no one's ever going to tell me that again.
Wow.
And I mean, you could sit, if our boss was here right now, she can come in here, you could ask her. She'll never tell you I'm not coachable. And I think that's the biggest thing that like separates people, not just me, but individuals in general, is if you're not coachable, you're not going to get to where you want to get, no matter what that looks like.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be, mentally healthy, you got to be coachable to get there. If you don't want to be physically fit, you got to be coachable to get there. If you don't want to succeed here, you have to be coachable.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like it's a non-negotiable. And so you have to first figure out what you want to be great at, what you really are passionate about in any capacity. And you have to be willing to be coachable to get there.
Love it. Samantha Gonzalez, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
This was great. I appreciate it.
It's fun.
Thanks.
Yeah.